Highly successful individuals are always focused on what's next, but they often don't take time to reflect on their journey and how far they've come. I'm Craig Heatherly, host of the Path Less Traveled podcast, where we dive into the journeys of extraordinary leaders. Their success rarely follows a straight path, and that's what makes their story so remarkable. Now let's dive into this week's episode after a brief message from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Mosier Consulting, the powerhouse behind some of the most innovative technology solutions in northern Indiana. For 30 years, Mosier has been delivering best-in-class solutions. If you're a leader in your company, Mosier is your partner in progress. With deep expertise in analytics, AI, managed services, Microsoft, IT savings, and strategic consulting, they don't just support your tech, they elevate your entire business. Mosier Consulting, technology experts, real results. Visit MosierIT.com to learn more. Looking for top talent in tech or professional fields? Avero Talent connects businesses with exceptional candidates, specializing in tailored recruiting solutions that match the right skills to your team's needs. Whether building a team or searching for a tough-to-fill position, Avero Talent delivers the expertise you need to hire smarter, faster, and with more confidence. Let us help you find your next star employee. Welcome to the Path Less Travel podcast, Season 3. And we've got a special guest with us. We've got the CEO of Beacon, Kreg Gruber, joining us. Kreg, I don't say this to many people. I don't say this to many men, but you've got a great name.
Yeah, thanks.
It's spelt a little different.
Yeah.
Than all the other Kregs out there.
Right. I'd say it's spelled correctly. A moment of creativity at birth for my parents.
Well, I'm excited to jump in. This is designed to talk business, to talk leadership primarily.
Yeah.
But when we start with business, I mean, you've been here at Beacon since, for almost 20 years now, 18 you just mentioned.
Yeah.
You've been the CEO since 2017. But your business background, I mean, you got a jump start on business. Tell us about kind of what I mean by that and just a little bit something that's unique about you.
Yeah. So I grew up in a family business, right? So my grandparents started a greenhouse business of flowers and plants. And when you're part of the family, you get put to work. So from the age of 5 years old on, I was working. You get home from school, the expectation was you got on your bike and you rode down to the greenhouse and you worked until the lights went out. And in a greenhouse, when the lights go out, means when the sun goes down. And, that's what we did. And it was 6 days a week. Didn't work on Sundays. Family had a faith background that said, hey, on Sundays, that's a day of rest. And, you don't have sales on Sunday, but even then there were sometimes you went on Sunday, check on the plants or something went wrong with the boiler or whatever. So, I didn't know anything other than that. And it was a drag every now and then as a teenager when my buddies were off doing something else and I was at the greenhouse working. And you don't realize it then of all the things you're learning and picking up and kind of having instilled in you at the time. But, there was a certain point when I did realize I was different. And I had a different understanding of things. I had different objectives and goals that I had already determined what they were based on some of those experiences. And I think that was a different experience than really a lot of my colleagues or friends at the time had. And I learned a lot of fascinating skills, useful skills that, I use certainly now, but even kind of the ability to fix something on the fly, right? With some duct tape and, some shoestrings, and all of a sudden you fix something because you had to do it, right? So all kinds of things that I was able to pick up and learn. So yeah, it was a great way to grow up, and I had, all my family there, right? It was my mom's side of the family, but my dad's side of the family was there too. So I had both sets of grandparents, aunts and uncles. It was kind of a Mayberry sort of situation, small town. I'm really blessed in that regard.
Success changes the game. Your business is growing. New opportunities, ambitious goals, greater impact. But growth brings complexity. More people to lead, more moving parts, less time and space to think and connect. And when leaders feel that strain, teams do too. At Cressy Leadership, we help leaders navigate those challenges. Through individual coaching, group training, and our Leadership Academy, we build the skills and strengthen the connections that make growth sustainable, helping teams communicate openly, tackle challenges together, and stay aligned on what matters most. Cressy Leadership. Envision what's possible.
Anything today that that's carried over that you do? And I know you don't get a lot of free time, but in your free time?
Well, I still love to landscape, and I've got a green thumb. So I'm the one that's always putting the plants outside for the summer, and when the landscape needs to be redone, I'm the one doing that. My daughter, who got married a year and a half ago, bought a house out in Denver. She called and said, "Hey, you guys want to come visit?" I said, "Sure." She goes, "You want to help us landscape our this house?" And okay. So rented the pickup truck out there, made like 5 trips to the landscape place, and basically did their landscape, did it for my son, do it for relatives. And it's a good release for me, and it puts me back in touch with kind of my upbringing, right? Plants and nature, and which is really how I recharge. So that's stuck with me.
Yeah.
It'll be with me till the day I'm done, right? It's the way I recharge.
Well, I mentioned you've been CEO here since 2017, and we don't have to talk a ton about what you guys do here because everybody should know.
Yeah.
But I guess tell me something that's the things that are exciting about this time right now for Beacon, and maybe what's next and what's on the horizon.
That for me, there's a couple things that I get a lot of return personally out of. One is just the association with people who are care providers, right? I always break it down. I try to oversimplify. There's 2 jobs in our organization. And people say, "Kreg, there's hundreds of job descriptions," but there's really 2 jobs. There's those who take care of patients, like actually take care of them, hands-on. And then there's those of us who support those who take care of patients. And so we're all part of a team. No one job is more important than the others. The CEO, the nurse, the tech, the housekeeper, nobody's more important than the other job because we all play a role. So I get a lot of satisfaction out of being associated with people who give great care. The second part is our mission statement, right? And that it's really tied to, it's real simple. It's 3 things. It's outstanding care, inspiring health, connect with heart. And that is really grounded in our communities. And when we've been approached by other communities to help them do that, like Bremen, Three Rivers, and now Kalamazoo, Dowagiac, Allegan, when we've been approached by those other communities because they see something we're doing well, and they say, "Hey, we'd like to be a part of that or have you assist us, help us," I take great pride in that, in the fact that we can then help them do that. I would say that's exciting for me because it's very fulfilling to know that you're making a difference in those communities as well. So when we talk about our community, it's this kind of expanding community. And at some point, you say, can it get too big? Yeah, it probably can. And because you can't stretch yourself too far. But so far, we've been able to do that and be very successful and help these other communities maintain jobs in those communities. That's exciting for me. Like, Bremen, Indiana, small community, their hospital's about ready to close. Right now, they're more successful than they've ever been. They're providing more jobs than they ever have. Three Rivers on that same journey. And again, it's when you can do those sorts of things, that's exciting, right? I get a lot of return on that. Personally.
Yeah. I want to ask you the question of, I think there's a big difference between the word like and the word love.
Yeah.
What do you love about your role here?
Well, first, people. I mean, I really do love the opportunity to interact with people. And it's funny because I'm an introvert by nature, which is hard. People say, how can you be a CEO and be an introvert? People don't really understand extrovert, introvert. Introvert means that when I'm out in a big crowd, that takes energy from me.
Yes.
And I need to recharge in a quiet, kind of individual way, the landscaping, working with the dirt, introversion, right? But I love the small interactions with the one-on-ones. Like this, I could do this all day, talk to somebody. And when I get the chance to go out and round and talk to our employees, I like that, right? Because they're the ones doing the work. They're amazing people. So I love the people. I love what they do. I love the chance to support what they do, and that we can, do a good job at that. Um, obviously, the easy answers and the ones that should come easy are, family, friends, there's nature, right? Those sorts of things. But at work here, it's the people, and it is the what do we do, right? We're helping others. I mean, how can you not love helping somebody that is in need, right? They come to us, sick, hurting, or the one that's a little different is when they're having a baby, right?
Yeah.
And they get to add somebody to their family.
Yeah.
So we get to participate in all that. So I love our mission. I love what we do.
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate for a career to do that.
Well, the title of the podcast is The Path Less Traveled. As you think about that title and you think about just your journey, what things come to mind?
We talked a little bit, and I shared with you kind of this. I've always been willing to, maybe it's take some risks or do things a little differently, or voice something a little differently that may not be the common way. And I've always believed that if you're a leader, sometimes you're going to have to pick a path that others aren't picking, because of something you believe or you see or you've become to understand. And that you just know or think that it's going to be different. And we have to take a different path in order to be successful, whether that's personally, professionally, or organizationally. And I think that's, that the title of your podcast, right? It was interesting to me. I often share that I had this great aunt that was very influential in my life, and she was just very different type of person. The conversations she would have with me and the discussions we would have when I was a teenager, right? And she was teaching me lessons about life, and she was talking about how to pay attention to the things around you, awareness, being aware, paying attention to your intuition. And I think those are things that are different about me, that I think I pay attention to some things that other people may not. Situational awareness, some people might call it that. But the best example I can give you is when my board meets, right? So my boss is a board, 14 individuals of community members. And we, our meetings, we talk a lot about strategy and what do we need to do to be successful and where we headed for the future. And while those discussions are going on, I'm listening, but I'm also watching the room. I'm looking around the room, watching people's expressions, tracking to see, not only what they're saying, but how are they reacting to it, and you can learn a lot by what's happening, going on around you. Are we headed down a path that people are buying into, or are we heading down a path that people are not engaged with, supportive of? The unspoken, right? The nonverbals, so important. And so I pay a lot of attention to those things. Just what's going on around you can give you a lot of signals.
I asked one of your teammates, Mark Brett, what's something inside of the walls of Beacon that people outside of the walls of Beacon should know about you?
Oh. Should I leave the room?
Says he's extremely well read, hyper curious, and a very good listener. And what you're talking about there, you're curious about those in the room and how they're receiving the message. My question to you is, has it always been that way for you, or how have you worked on that skill? Because it is a skill.
Yeah.
How have you worked on that?
Yeah, well, first I'd say my mom was a fourth grade school teacher, right? So when you grew up in a household with a fourth grade school teacher, reading was very important, right? I mean, reading. I then married a woman who loves to read, and I would get home from work and I'd be exhausted. And the minute I'd walk in the door, she'd hand me a book and she'd say, "Go read to the kids." And I'd be like, and it's like, I just got home.
Oh,
And
wow.
she'd be like, read to the kids. And she'd make me go read to the kids. I have 3 kids who are voracious readers. So I will tell you, I've always believed reading is a key element to, it's so foundational to our learning, our ability to communicate, our curious nature, imagination, all those things. So I had 2 women in my life that were key to driving that, I think, foundation of curiosity, that sort of thing. So that's on the why am I curious and why do I ask questions? And I think it comes from some of that.
Yeah.
Just, the second thing about the listening, I think he's giving me a lot of credit I don't deserve, because my mind works at hyperspeed sometimes, and I get ahead of myself. I'm pretty sure my wife wouldn't give that answer. Rightfully so. Rightfully so. She's right too, because I will jump ahead, and But the listening part, I would say, how do I develop that? It's more than listening. Like I was talking about those other senses. If you think about listening as just one of our senses, right? Sight's another one, smell's another one, touch is another one. And I put that together in this category of awareness, right? So I'll go back to my great aunt. When I was growing up, she's a fascinating woman. She had spent time in Mexico on travels, and she worked at the greenhouse along with her sister, my grandma, who started the business, right? And we're talking about, these are women in their 70s still working, right? But anyhow, they lived down the street. And so we'd go down the street to have lunch, and we'd take siesta. So it was you'd take a nap after you ate lunch. And she would say to me, she'd say, now you're going to have dreams while you sleep. Remember what you're dreaming about. I was a kid, right?
Wow.
It's like, so the first few times it's like, she'd say, what did you dream about? And I don't know. And she'd always come back, she'd say, remember what you dream about. Eventually I learned to remember what I dream about. And it wasn't about interpreting dreams, but her whole point was, there's a reason you're dreaming. I don't know what it means, but it means something. Pay attention to that. Understand it, think about it. What's it telling you? She didn't have the answer for it. The other thing she would do is, we'd leave the greenhouse, and every now and then, or we'd go somewhere, and she'd say, stop, be quiet. What do you hear? What do you see? She was all about kind of this.
Yeah.
And that's a skill, right? To stop, pause, be quiet in yourself, be quiet, and take it in, right? And I don't know if you've ever had these moments of like hyper clarity because you've paused. And I think it's so challenging for people these days with the inundation of the cell phone, right? It's in your hand all the time, of the noise around us, to just stop and be quiet and receive whatever it is. Sounds of nature, sounds of traffic, sounds of a meeting, whatever you're doing, just allow those things to come in so you can be aware. So that listening, I think, is beyond just what you're hearing. It's what are you receiving in that moment, or in that session, or over a continuum, and what are those things telling you? And how do you synthesize that, right? How do you put those things together? But it starts with at least listening in the broader sense. So I think that's one of those lessons I learned as a kid that, like, some people would say, oh, dude, that's weird, right? That's starting to get on that edge of, and I don't talk about it a lot because some people, when you talk about intuition, some people make that seem mystical and magical. I don't define it that way. I define it as paying attention to all those things.
Yeah.
And people that, and I know them too, that they're just, it's like they're just more insightful, right? They come to these conclusions quicker, or they sense something's going to happen. And that's what that is. And they may not know it, but I believe that's kind of what that is. And I think that can be trained. I think you can learn that but it starts with kind of, okay, take a minute, take a breath. And that's hard. I mean, I'm not great at it because the pace of our work here, and just the way my brain is wired to go. So it takes a minute to kind of stop. Yeah.
I love this. In a conversation, as you mentioned earlier, there's a lot happening, right? There's
All the time.
with the words that I'm saying, you're receiving those words. Are you ready to respond? Tonality, nonverbal, what's your body language? There's a lot happening in a conversation to actually fully be present and listen.
Yeah.
And there's a book, I think it's Ryan Holiday, Stillness is the Key. And I talk with business leaders often about how often do you find moments of stillness where you're in your own thoughts? Because that's where a lot of our creativeness comes out of.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge to most. I mean, can you find moments of stillness to be better?
Yeah. The answer is yes. I would say probably most of the great leaders figure out their way.
Yeah.
My way is not going to be your way, or the next person's way. I have multiple different places or spots or opportunities for it. For me, it's, I'll get in the car and drive with nothing on, no music, no distractions, and just drive, and my wheels are moving. I'm already mentioned before, being out in nature for me is like a recharge moment for me. And I will tell you, some of my best thinking comes, we've got this walking path that we put in for the community here. And I'll say to Laura every now and then, don't do it a lot, but I'll say, hey, I'm going to take a lap, and I'll do a lap. And it's a little less than a mile. And my wheels, and it's funny because the wheels actually slow down. I can almost feel it, right? That they slow down and the clarity is better. So I ride a bike, road bike for exercise and just kind of enjoy it. It's funny. I tell people it's another one of those moments for me, oddly enough. What I say is it's hard to be distracted when all you're trying to do is get your next breath. And so again, what you're able to do is kind of slow things down mentally, because you got to be in the moment riding your bike, but it also somehow frees up space for me to think, and just recharge that way. So that I've got many different ways and approaches that I've figured out over the years that work for me.
Yeah.
And I think what's important is for people to figure that out for themselves, find their thing. I've got a colleague that she knits, right? That's very calming for her, she thinks. I've got another colleague who he works out, he lifts weights, and that calms him, and he can think through things while he's doing that. Everybody's got something. Find that thing, and then make the time for it. My predecessor in this job, he used to, take a walk, and he would tell me, Kreg, you need to have time on your schedule with nothing.
Yeah.
So you can be thinking about the future, thinking about what the organization needs to do. So I've had people in my life kind of give me those opportunities to build that in.
Do you have anything tactical as far as how you capture your thoughts and write them down? Or okay,
I'm not. I'm a. So unfortunately, I always tell my wife I have limited RAM, right? Random access memory, right? The old computer stuff that, that's the working memory. I have really high working memory. I don't store some things very long. And unfortunately, I will tell you, and this is very unfortunate, I have chosen work things to store and personal things I have pushed out.
Interesting, yeah.
And so my kids and my wife will say, do you remember when? Right. And I will say, no, I have no recollection of that. And until I see a picture of it, then all of a sudden I can remember.
It's like I'm looking in the mirror right now.
Well, right? And so because I have prioritized my memory for my job, my work. And so I've made sure that I have really high memory in that regard, but the personal stuff, no. And that's, that's not a great thing. And I wouldn't encourage anybody to do that. But it's just how my mind is wired.
Well, I asked another colleague of yours a question, Larry Tracy. I said, what would you say is Kreg's leadership superpower? He says he has the ability to connect with people from all walks of life. He has the ability to explain our extraordinarily complex system of healthcare delivery in terms or ways that every person can understand or relate to. I got to witness this about a week ago
at an event that you guys hosted in Elkhart, and so did everybody in that room. So my question to you is, I mean, how would you describe just your leadership style?
Yeah, it's always been a hard one for me, right? And I use this term situational awareness. I guess I'd use the term situational leadership, right? I mean, depends on where you're at and who you're with and what it calls for. And this ability to talk to anybody, again, it comes from kind of who I am and how I was brought up and the opportunities I had to interface with different types of people all throughout my kind of personal journey, right? I mean, I grew up in a greenhouse and I worked with, I worked with guys who hadn't finished high school, right? They were great guys. And also worked with, my parents went to college, a school teacher, a state auditor. So education was important and pursuing higher ed was important, yet also was relationships with people who that wasn't a priority and that wasn't planned. And then sports, right, gives you, I will tell you, I'm a big believer in activities for kids in sports because it exposes you to a lot of different people not like you.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that was, I grew up in a 99% white community. And, when I played basketball, I got exposed to basically the black community, right? Black guys, was who I played with in a lot of tournaments and then in college. And so I connect to the black community, probably just as well as I connect to the white community, if you will. And just learn to, the language is different, as you know, as I always tell, I'll divert for a minute. I've had people talk about, this notion of I want to be able to bring my full self to work. And I have a different answer to that. And the answer is no, you don't get to bring your full self to work. Because my full self includes me on a basketball court with language that wouldn't be appropriate as a CEO. You know what I'm talking about. And so it's situational.
It is.
And you have to be able to put the rails on yourself in each situation.
That's good, yeah.
And move it between place to place and connect with whoever you're with at the time. And, if we were on a basketball court right now, you and me, we'd be having a different conversation, right? In a different language.
Yeah.
We're not. Right now you're talking to the CEO of Beacon House System. And I think I've used that ability to take what I do, then to break down, okay, what is this thing that we're doing here that often people don't understand how it works, and explain it in terms they can understand. And if that's a superpower, which I really appreciate these guys talking nice about me, I guess I'm glad to have that. And if it helps people understand things, then that's great. But I do think it's a responsibility we have to try to give people information, help figure it out, because it is so confusing. And right now in the national scene, healthcare's front and center, right? With what's going on at the federal level in the government, and I've had so many people recently ask me my opinion of, okay, Kreg, is what they're saying, is this true or is this true? And the interesting thing is there's truth in all of it. And I've often said, when someone's talking, even if you don't agree with it, I would challenge you to think about where's the truth in it. Because for them, there's a truth in there somewhere.
Right.
And I've always tried to do that with people is when you're in a situation of an issue or kind of a conflict, it's like, where's the truth in it? And where can we find the commonality that we can get to a solution? And again, I think that has to do with being able to work with and interact with almost anybody.
You mentioned that you love the fact that you get to work alongside of people and serve people. As a leader, it's very common. Some of your biggest challenges are people, right? And you just mentioned, I think you mentioned the word conflict.
Yeah.
When there's tension, how do you handle conflict and conflict resolution? And do you have a framework for having hard, difficult conversations?
First, make sure it's never personal. right? I mean, we're in this situation because the roles we're in, not who we are, right? I mean, I'm the CEO, whatever, in that conflict situation. They're in the role they are. Might not be who they are, right? So don't ascribe the situation to the person, ascribe it to the situation.
Right.
That's just the situation. So avoid the personal issues. Keep it, as I say, professional. Keep it about the issue. And so don't get twisted up about it, right? The other thing is I always know there's only one person I have to go home with at night, right? And that's the person that, that I got to make sure I'm always square with. So it's okay to have conflict with somebody in a situation. It's okay to be on the opposite side of things. Find the commonality, right? Find the issue that you can agree on. If there is any, find it.
Yeah.
And then, man, drive on that.
Yeah.
And then the fact is compromise. The fact is you can't be win-lose all the time. I mean, occasionally maybe there's a win and that person doesn't get what they want, and that's just the way it worked out. But if that's what you're always after, that's a bad strategy over time, and you will fail personally and professionally and organizationally if that's what you're after every time. And so people think compromise is weakness. It's not. Compromise leads to solutions. I was in a mediation, involved in a mediation for the organization once, and the mediator, an attorney, he said at the very start, he said, if both parties don't walk away unhappy, we've probably not done our job. He said, if it's a win-lose, somebody's happy and somebody's pissed, we probably didn't do a great job. Mm-hmm. He said, but if both parties compromise, he said, it's probably the best outcome we can expect. And unfortunately in our world today, there's so much polarization where it's got to be my way and where it's my way.
Right.
And there's no willingness to compromise and move ahead. And so trying to, I guess that's a framework, if you would.
It is.
Try to get to something. And just that's how I kind of work through it.
Well, I've got a couple final questions, as we start to wrap up. You've accomplished a lot. You've been a part of a lot of successful things, initiatives within the business world, within the playing field at Ohio State. What are you most proud of? And let's just take Beacon off the table.
Oh, because that's where I would.
Yeah, right. You're storing on the memories. I'm gonna challenge you here.
Yeah, right.
Let's take that off. Let's take that off the table. What are you most proud of?
I'm not gonna make this easy. I could have given you two things right out like that with the professional side, right? Man. One, I don't consider myself a prideful person, right? I guess what I would say is, I, as a husband and a dad, I felt I was obligated to get my kids to a point where they could do their thing, right? I'm proud of the fact they're doing their thing. Now, I will tell you, I wasn't always proud of how I did it, right? And I had to learn some hard lessons and change my approach along the way, which I was not. I will tell you, I wasn't the best dad on the whole journey for them. But luckily, again, my wife, she basically helped me see the way clear, and I think I'm doing a much better job now than I probably did as they were growing up. But thankfully to her and yeah, I contributed, but they're good people, right? My three kids are good people in successful professions, and I'm proud of that and proud of them. Proud of the relationship I have with my wife. I mean, we've known each other since I was a sophomore in high school. She walked into my Mrs. Van Beber's geometry class. I still remember. I can picture her coming into that room, and took me three times to get a date with her, three attempts, and I finally did. It was kind of, I always, so I'm proud of the fact that we've figured out how to make a relationship work all those years, and still like each other. We actually like hanging around with each other and doing things together, and I'm proud of that. So I would say those are a couple things that I've, that I'm really happy about.
Yeah. Well, my final question for you before I get your final thoughts is, what's one of the kindest things someone's done for Kreg Gruber?
That's an interesting question. Do you ask that a lot? That's an interesting question, because I don't think many people. I mean, maybe people come up with it like. So
not a lot of people come up with their own thing. It takes some time.
Yeah, good. I'm not alone
it
on
takes
that.
some time, and I say it because
Well, I've had a lot of.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of really, really great people in my life, who have given me opportunities, support. God, the list is long. And you hate to name one.
Right.
I do, because
yeah.
I mean, I could go the professional side. I could go the personal side. What do you want me to pick? I mean,
You know what? I'm going to
more
have you.
interested?
I'd like you to pick the personal side.
The personal side.
Everybody knows. Not everybody knows Kreg Gruber Beacon, but
Good.
not the personal side.
Yeah. Well, again, it's again. There's. Can I give a couple?
You can give as many as you like.
Well, I'm going to give a couple, because I can't pick one. You've heard me mention women, influential women in my life, and it's interesting. I feel real fortunate that, one, I had great male influences, right? My dad, my mom's brother, my uncle, who ran the greenhouse business, worked with him every day. My grandfather, who was really important in my life, my dad's dad. So I had great male influences, right? So there's no doubt about that. But as a male, I also had really great female influences in my life, which I'm not sure that people get that balance. I don't know, maybe they do, but I had some really great female influence. And one, I mentioned this great aunt of mine. She's a fascinating person. If you were to say who was the most influential person in your life, it'd be her.
Wow. Yeah.
Sarah Bright. It was my mom's aunt, so my great aunt. Fascinating woman. Could sit here for 2 hours to talk about her. But I think probably the kindest thing she did for me was in part kind of her worldliness, thinking, and knowledge, right? Of getting, a kid growing up in a town of 8,000, 9,000, small town, not well traveled, right? But really imparting her what she knew and where she had been, what she had seen, and the way she thought. That was, I think, really a wonderful thing that I had access to. And then, she also was, had resources. She was very wealthy. She supported me going through college. When I stopped playing basketball and no longer had scholarship money coming in, she basically helped me pay for college. And so that was, again, one of the kindest things somebody's ever done for me, is to help support me on my journey.
Yeah.
The second one, I go right to my wife, right? I would say the kindest thing she's done for me over the years, and continues to do it, is just be that support for me. This is a high stress job, and I go in ebbs and flows, I think, like most people do, right? Based on the pressure of what's going on. And there are times when I'm super stressed out. I don't show it a lot. I've gotten pretty good at managing my outward show of stress. But when I get home and I don't talk about work at home, I don't share things that are going on, just because I don't want to bring that home. But she knows, and she'll look at me and she'll say, "What do you need from me? How can I support you?"
Wow. Means a lot.
Oh, I'm going
Yeah.
to cut the cameras for a minute. Right? I mean, that unto itself is probably one of the kindest things somebody can do for a partner over time, is just keep coming back to that. So I would say that's I can't not mention that.
That's beautiful.
A big thank you to Senior One Care for sponsoring today's episode. Founded in 2006 by Carl and Kyle Bossing, this family-owned business has provided compassionate in-home care for nearly 2 decades. If my family needed a caregiver, I'd call Kyle. With 6 Indiana locations, they give you the peace of mind while your loved ones receive the care they deserve. Learn more at SeniorOneCare.com.
Something that we're doing more in our home, and I'm actually having this conversation with more people, asking this question to more and more people, is what's consuming your thoughts right now? Like at this time in your life, this week, this day, and I think it's a great question also to ask your partner in life of like what's going on in your mind.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because we're at that empty nest. We've been in that empty nest phase for a little while, and every now and then we ask the question, are we doing what we're supposed to be doing right now? Not just doing what we're used to every day because it's what we've been doing.
Yeah, but right now.
But are we doing what we're supposed to be doing? Meaning, are we thoughtful about where we're at in our lives, what we have to offer, and what we could be doing that we wouldn't be doing otherwise?
Yeah.
And sometimes the answer is no, we're not. We're not using our time the way we would want to. Again, we're caught up in our phone, or we're caught up thinking about work too much, or Jenny's a part-time fitness instructor, right? Teaches at Knollwood and at Beacon at our Granger facility. And she's like a number 1 sub, right? People call her to sub and she never says no, hardly ever. And then she'll get in a place where she's like overcommitted.
Yeah.
And she'll feel like, it's a lot. And then we have to put some of our personal things on hold because she's made these commitments. And so we're back and forth like that. And so it's you're right. That is an important question to ask about where you at, what are you doing? Is it the right thing? And then reorient, right? Because you can get stuck in patterns and ruts and just kind of go on about your day. And again, if you're not paying attention, life goes quick, right? It goes really fast, and you've only got this one during this time, right now, right here. And if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, and oftentimes that's not what other people are telling you to do, because you'll get lots of opinions, right? and what you have to do is decipher through all that, say, what am I supposed to be doing right now? And she and I agreed a few years ago, the board had approached me about, staying on, renewing my contract and being here for another period of time. And we sat down, she and I, and said, is that what we're supposed to be doing? Are we supposed to be here? Am I supposed to continue to do this as a CEO? And we said yes at that time. And so I believe I'm supposed to be here doing this right now. And we'll revisit that again. And, when she and I talk, we talk about those sorts of things, right? And what is that next phase look like?
Mm-hmm.
And what's the plan?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have all the answers, but unless you ask the question, you'll never know. So you're right. I think it is a really important question that again, takes a minute. You got to stop though, right? You got to stop everything else.
Back. Yeah, absolutely.
And you have to say, okay, let's talk about this. And so, I think some people get either frustrated by it or scared by it because they don't know. And it's okay to say you don't know yet. That's okay. I don't know yet. I'll figure it out, right? It'll come to me, or it'll present itself and it'll be like, oh, I'm supposed to be doing that.
Right.
So yeah, I like that question. I don't know if I gave you an answer, but I like it.
Well, I know you did. And I'm happy where it went.
Yeah.
That was really good. As we wrap this thing up, I mean, what final thoughts would you want to leave listeners with as it pertains to, it could be Beacon, it could be leadership, it could be anything related. The floor is yours. Go ahead and close us out.
Well, with your title, your podcast, kind of, talking to leaders, I guess I'd just share a couple things that I think about. One is I was given great opportunities along my journey, right? Other people either chose me or supported me or, presented me with opportunity. And I would say leaders need to, pay that forward, right? Do that for others, right? Provide those opportunities, be a support to somebody else. I I think that's one of the best gifts you can give back as a leader. So the more leaders can do that, I think the better off more satisfied you'll be, the better off an organization will be, and the better off the future generation's going to be. So that's the first thing. The other thing I shared with you is just, that piece of advice I give to a lot of people is, I'm pretty sure I'm going to write this out before I'm done doing this job someday, is kind of lessons learned over my life. But it is that I shared with you that, have an old person in your life. Make sure you're connected to old people.
Yeah.
Why? Because they know things you don't know. They have wisdom, right? I grew up with, like I said, my great aunt and grandparents and old people, right? And they shared things with me I didn't know in a way that I listened to differently. And you can learn a lot from them. Not necessarily history, but experience. So that's the first thing. And the other thing I mentioned to you was have young people in your life. The young people are the people you should be watching and learning from about how they learn and about how they communicate and about what things they're using, because that is the future. The patterns they're setting are what's going to happen 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. And adapt.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't keep up, you're going to get left behind. You're going to be the old man who's calling your grandkid to program the VCR, right? I mean, that was it, and I don't want to be that guy, right? I want to be the old guy who still knows how to do those things because I'm evolving. And I think that's, we all should be thinking about how do we maintain ourselves, not only physically but mentally, and evolve over time so that, like one of my heroes, I ride bikes, right? I ride with a guy who's 96 years old, 96. And a lot of people in this community know his name's Kreg Gruber. And the other guy I ride with, Bruce Gordon. They're real good friends that we go on these rides. 96. And the dude, we're going 22 miles an hour and he's right there. And he holds national records, right? And his whole thing is don't stop moving. Just keep doing your thing. And I look at him and I think, that I can do that. I could certainly have it as my goal, right? So, evolve, keep moving, keep learning, keep your mind open. So I guess I would end with those things just to share for others. Hopefully, it's things for them to think about if they haven't, and maybe to adapt or adopt. Hopefully that's helpful.
The idea of reaching forward and reaching behind at every point in your life of somebody that's years in front of you or years behind you, I love it. And I have the pleasure of sitting with a lot of people with this podcast and hearing of the mentors and the people that have impacted your life, that have helped become who you are today is because of a lot of these individuals, right? So then why not pay that forward?
Yeah. I mean, I've never tried to formally play that role, right? But I've always made myself accessible for that. It was interesting last night at this medical staff function we had up in Kalamazoo. A physician came over to say hello to me. I hadn't seen in a while, and I introduced him to a Kalamazoo physician, and out of his mouth, and it caught me by surprise, and he said, I came to Beacon right out of fellowship. And I was a new physician and trying to grow the program, and Kreg was a tremendous mentor to me. I had no idea.
Wow.
And I would say all I did was make myself available to him and talk to him about, hey, you might consider this, or hey, have you thought about that? Those sorts of things, right? That counseling, advising, and essentially that is mentoring, but it wasn't a formal thing I was trying to do. It was just making myself available.
Yeah, that's good.
And I think a lot of leaders, just do that. Make yourself available, for people.
Well, I want to thank you for doing this. This has been outstanding. We could go another, I don't know how long we've been going, but we could spend more time here. But I appreciate the time that you've given me. I know you've got a really busy schedule, and it was great to just kind of peel back the curtains and learn a little bit more about you, your upbringing, and just how you think. And I think it's fascinating. It's no surprise why Beacon's going the places it's going, because of not just the team that you've been able to assemble just by being you. So thank you again.
Yeah. Well, I do have great people, and I said some awfully nice things. So, and back to the conversation. Next time we can do it on a basketball court and have a whole different conversation.
I had a conversation yesterday. Somebody had asked if I still play, or I said, no, I actually don't stick up my hand to compete.
Yeah.
Intentionally, because I just become a different person.
Yeah, my body can't handle it anymore.
And that too.
The mind thinks what the body can't do, right? So I learned that several years ago in a hard way, and love the game, but it's just you reach a certain point, you got to move on. Right.
I retired about 4 years ago. Joe Hart, by the way, your friend, he's still going. He's on a softball league. He's playing. He's doing well, he says.
Joe Hart, he's a great guy, right? Running a great organization. So yeah, Joe's he's a joy, right? Joe is just a joyful person to be around. Runs a great organization. Is he up next?
We interviewed him yesterday, and his
Isn't he great?
He's phenomenal. He's phenomenal. We did it on the porch, the deck of the performance center, and listened to it last night after we did it. And there's birds chirping, there's hammers swinging, there's cranes going. It was right for what's happening there.
Yeah, right.
It's so cool.
You were talking about South Bend and evolution. Think about that. From where, 20 years ago when I came to what it is now for the community, and what a great venue, right? And as I told you, they've been a great supporter of the Children's Hospital in Beacon, the Home Run for Life, they do to have the community chip in spare change into the bucket they pass around, and it's raised thousands of dollars that has enabled us to do extra things for these kids and families that we wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. And so again, that kind of combination of bringing people together and in their way contributing back to even bettering the community more through a different venue. So very cool. He's done an outstanding job there. Yeah.
Well, he told me to tell you, hook up with him. He's ready for some Barbies.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for this week's episode of the Pathless Travel Podcast with the CEO of Beacon, Kreg Gruber. Until next week, have a great day.